Welcome to the most authoritative sporting channel here on social media. This is your boy man. Today's episode. Before I continue, congratulations are in order for Jaron Booth Ennis for becoming a unified welterweight champion. It would be interesting to see him become undisputed at the welterweight division, where I anticipate him facing Normal for a unification bout. But first, this particular fight was a very good performance from Jaron Booth Ennis because of two reasons. One, because there wasn't a 10-pound limit as the IBF condition states, and secondly, because he was motivated. In his previous fight, he did not have the motivation in which he had in this particular fight. It was just a mandatory whom he had beaten earlier, and he had to honor it in order to keep the belt. But for this, there was something to gain from this particular fight, and that is a roadmap to becoming undisputed. But before I get into the fight proper, please remember to subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon, express your views in the comment section, and share so others can enjoy. Two weapons used in this particular fight was one, the jab, two was the uppercut, and the bonus one was the footwork of Jaron Booth Ennis. I think that these were the three basic tools in which Jaron Booth Ennis used in defeating Easterman Stanionis. I think that he executed everything perfectly and stopped him later with that uppercut in no dropped him with the uppercut in the sixth round, and Stanionis did not come out for the seventh round. But for the first round, the man of the moment kept his jab probing. He was throwing a lot of jab, and when Easterman had the high guard, he kept throwing the jab to the belly, which ended up paying a lot of dividends in the later rounds of this particular fight. Then the uppercut was landing, but there was one thing we have all noticed about Jaron Booth, and is that may go a long way or hurt him in his career when he starts meeting that elite to A-listed blue chip fighters in the likes of Virgil Ortiz, who it is destined that they would collide one day as the first fight fell through. Now, Jaron Booth Ennis has a reputation of seeing punches, but just wants to lean back in order to duck them. But in the first round, Stanionis landed a left hook that caused a little bit of guard under the eyes of Jaron Booth Ennis, though he did not have the chance to pressure in order to put more dent into that particular card. An elite fighter could or would have done more, because Stanionis with his high guard up could not do a lot of things, and one thing that he could not do was one, he could not punch, or he could not see the punches of as boots coming his way. So it was also a disadvantage to Stanionis in that particular sense. But in the second round, it was another Booth dominated round where Booth was more probing in this particular round, where he threw a lot of jabs. He threw a lot of jabs and threw a lot of power punches and uppercut to the body, jabs to the surplus and to the belly. And you could see that Stanionis was beginning to find his feet, close the gap. He also landed very good jabs of his own. But by the third round, the footwork of Jaron Booth Ennis had set in, and he was now in the mood where he was moving away and making it difficult for Stanionis to close the gap. Stanionis would have a stiff jab, but he needed to close the range, and his feet were quite slow, and he couldn't do that. So in the third round too, it was another masterclass from Jaron Booth Ennis with keeping the jab, probing, preventing Stanionis to get closer to the door in order to attempt to break it. He was just pushing him back with the jab, and that was the same thing that Teofimo Lopez did against Vasily Lomachenko. Though the jabs were not landing cleanly, they were not making um, Vasily Lomachenko take off on his offense. So because Boots was throwing a lot of jabs, it was keeping Stanionis at bay, and he couldn't come in order to throw his jab. And besides that, his low were not assaulted or were not as educated, smooth in movement as Jaron Booth Ennis. And by the fifth round, it was all Jaron Booth Ennis, but he had slowed down a little, and Stanionis put up a performance in the fifth round. As you could see that the dominance of Jaron Booth Ennis was getting to him. As at the fourth round, I had it 4-0 in favor of Jaron Booth Ennis. Jaron Booth Ennis had won all the four rounds prior to the fifth round on my scorecard. Though there was a great showing from Stanionis, I still think that he did not land enough, and I think that Jaron Booth Ennis nicked that round. And in the sixth round, starting from the get go, you could see that now Jaron Booth Ennis was just running away with the victory, and he has started dominating Stanionis in a fantastic manner because Stanionis punches were no longer having that effect on Jaron Booth Ennis, and Jaron Booth Ennis pressed the action, pinch him, put him under pressure, dropped him 10 seconds to the close of the round. He stood up, but his corner had to stop the fight because they realized that he wasn't going to come back and he was taking a lot of punishment. And besides that, his wife would be in labor any moment, and you need to keep the gentleman fresh in order for him to get back to his wife by Monday if he gets a flight from Atlantic City to um, Lutania. So I think that it was a very, very good fight by all standard. I would love to see a unification bout between Myro Barros and Norman. Then we'd have an ultimate unification fight between Norma and John Booth Ennis. And with the Norma fight, though Norma is not yet in his prime as Jerome Booth Ennis, if Jerome Booth Ennis does not sort the chin issue, getting his chin tagged in, protected well, he may get himself into trouble against Normal with a potential unification fight expected to happen maybe later in the year if possible. But one thing that is making me think, I don't really remember the number of fights John Booth Ernest signed with Eddie Hearn, but if that fight is four, then that means that they are running out of time. Would Jerome Booth Ernest would he have to return back to the PBC for those unification bout to happen? We all live to see, and in boxing, you can never tell anything is possible. So, congratulations once again to Jerome Booth Ennis. And along the line, I'd love to see Jerome Booth Ennis and Virgil Ortiz face each other in the squared circle. And maybe if a Terence Crawford fight comes along, that would also be an exciting one. But I don't see Terence Crawford fighting Jerome Booth Ennis anytime soon. No, I don't see it happening because Jaron Booth Ennis will not bring that much cash on board in which Terence Crawford is demanding or looking for at the tail end of his career. Once again, congratulations. If you have not subscribed, please now hit the subscribe button, press the bell icon, express your views in the comment section. The channel is growing, and this is the right place to be when it comes to boxing analysis. Thank you.